السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله. قال الله عز وجل في كتابه الكريم بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. وقال في مقام آخر: يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. وقال في مقام آخر: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. My brothers and sisters in Islam, in a hadith recorded by Imam Tirmidhi, our Prophet ﷺ mentioned, إِذَا أَصْبَحَ بْنُ آدَمَ, every single day when the son of Adam wakes up, فَإِنَّ الْأَعْضَاءَ كُلَّهَا تُكَفِّرُ اللِّسَانِ, all the limbs of the son of Adam humble themselves towards the tongue. تقول, saying, اتق الله فينا, that be God conscious in regards to us. فإنما نحن بك, because verily we are with you. The limbs of the body are telling the tongue, verily we are with you. فإن استقمت استقمنا, if you are straight, then we will be straight. وإن اعوججت اعوججنا, but if you are crooked, then we will also be crooked. What an important hadith, magnifying the importance of safeguarding the tongue. Every single day, the limbs of our body humble themselves towards the tongue, fearing for their safety, telling the tongue, fear Allah, because you're going to get us all in trouble. The limbs of our body are worried for their safety because of what our tongues can say every single day. When you say something, not only though can you harm yourself, but in many circumstances, you can also harm others. And perhaps that is why the Prophet ﷺ mentioned in a hadith recorded by Imam Bukhari, in a famous hadith that perhaps all of us have heard, when our Prophet ﷺ was asked, Ayyul Muslimin afdal, who of the Muslims are the best? What did he say? Man salim al-muslimun min lisanihi wa yadi. Or kama qala alayhi salatu wasalam. That the one whom other Muslims are safe from his tongue and from his hands. These are the best of Muslims. And subhanallah, how many times can you remember a time? I'm sure all of us can think of one example or many examples of when or because of the action and saying of one person, many other people were affected. Maybe even the whole ummah was affected because of what somebody said. Because of what somebody said. So be very careful in regards to your speech. Because if you say things you're not supposed to say, or say them when you're not supposed to, you're asking for a beating that could keep you dreaming, or a whooping that you never saw coming. And moreover, remember that you are displeasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when you're speaking in a foul manner. If you have a habit of always cursing, using the F word, F this, F that, give me F this, give me F that, always using this type of foul language, know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not like the one who has a coarse or foul mouth. and take heed from the warning of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this is something serious. And when she mentioned also in a hadith recorded by Imam Bukhari, when our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned, إِنَّ الْعَبْدَ لَيَتَكَلَّمُ بِالْكَلِمَةِ, that verily a servant will say a word, مَا يَتَبَيَّنُ فِيهَا, carelessly, without thinking about it much, without giving it much thought at all. He will carelessly say something, he or she, يَزِلُّ بِهَا إِلَى النَّارِ, and he or she will be thrown into the hellfire because of it. أَبَعْدَ مِمَّا بَيْنَ الْمَشْرِقِ وَالْمَغْرِبِ, the distance of which is further than the east and west. Now I know, my brothers and sisters, it's very hard because everywhere you go, people are cursing. People are using foul language. You go to even the elementary schools, the kids are using foul language. You go to work, you go to the grocery store, the mall, you watch TV, everyone's using foul language. Or a lot of people are. But still remember that there are people in society, many of which are actually even of whom are non-Muslims, that still resort to good language, that still resort to abstaining from foul words and foul gestures. And moreover, let the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ encourage you from saving your mouth from using these words. Our Prophet ﷺ mentioned in the hadith recorded by Imam Tirmidhi that مَنْ يَضْمَنْ لِي مَا بَيْنَ لَحْيَيْهِ وَمَا بَيْنَ رِجْلَيْهِ أَضْمَنْ لَهُ الْجَنَّةِ, whoever can guarantee me what is between his jawbone and what is between his legs, I will guarantee this person paradise. And guarantee meaning here that you are protecting your organs in a way prescribed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by the ways of Sharia. You are guarding your tongue and you are guarding your organs. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned, whoever can do this, whoever can guarantee me these two things, I will guarantee this person paradise. You know, perhaps also signifying that usually when most people get in trouble, it's because of these two things. It's because of these two things. Because of something they said or someone that they slept with. And if you look at society today, you'll find the same trend. Most people get in trouble for these same things because of someone they were with that they weren't supposed to be with, or something that they said. So safeguard your tongue and the organs Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. Inshallah, the reward will be great. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has instructed us in a beautiful surah, Surah Al-Hujurat, with many advices that help safeguard all of us from using our tongues in a bad manner. And actually, some people even call it Surah Al-Akhlaq, the surah of character, or of good characteristics. And I'll mention some of the ayahs in the surah, and inshallah, we'll try to reflect upon some of the ayahs and bi'idhnillah, try to extract some lessons so that we can protect ourselves and even teach it to our families in regards to how we can save our tongues from being used in a bad manner. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O you who believe, in ja'akum fasiqum binaba'in fatabayyanu. O you who believe, if somebody comes to you with some news, then verify it. And another riwayah, it's recited, fatathabbatu, clarify it. An tusibu qawman bijahala, lest that you harm other people out of ignorance. Fatusbihu ala ma fa'altum nadimin, and then lest you be sorry for what you have done, lest you become sorry for what you did. How many times can we remember a time where somebody came to us with some news and we quickly just went on and told somebody else, or maybe even told a group of people without verifying it, without checking if it was even true, and we just quickly ran our mouth off and told another group of people, and they went on and told another group of people, and you know what, at the end of the day, it turned out to be false. It turned out to be false, and it led to a lot of harm. Maybe it even led to a fight. Why? Because you chose not to verify information that came to you, and you quickly spread it for no reason, just because you couldn't keep it inside you. It couldn't stay within. Our Prophet ﷺ has mentioned, كَفَى بِالْمَرْءِ كَذِبًا أن يحدث بكل ما سمع أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. It is enough for one to be considered a liar that he or she goes on to narrate everything that they hear. Whatever you hear, you go and tell somebody right away. Whatever you hear, you can't hold it inside, you just have to go tell somebody. Whether it's on Facebook, whether it's through text messaging or through your email, you just can't keep inside and you have to spread it. Be very careful from this practice, my brothers and sisters. Also, specifically in regards to emails. If you receive an email, please verify the information before you forward it to others, because it can lead to a lot of harm. It can lead to a lot of harm. To give you a classic example, unfortunately this is still going around today. This email is several years old. But there's an email that's going around saying that in New York, a cafe or actually a bar is being built. And this bar is in the shape of the Kaaba in Mecca. And you look at the picture, it looks almost exactly like the Kaaba, but this is a bar. And underneath it, it's saying all these bad things about the kuffar and so forth. Imagine how many people you are going to startle up for no reason, for no good reason. The whole thing was fake. It was a hoax. The picture was a fake. The story was a fake. And this email has been forwarded to God knows how many. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows how many millions maybe of people have received this false email. And because of people's mistake, they never verified it. They simply forwarded it to many people on their list or everyone on their list. And the wrong information was being sent. Many of you can think of an example on your own where it was very embarrassing when you forwarded an email that was false and it came out and you didn't know it was false till later after many people had received it. I myself even have been in this situation in the past, and it's very embarrassing. So it's very important that we verify the information that comes to us, whether it's email, whether it's somebody's speech, and even text messaging. Another classic example I have to mention, because this also still goes on. You'll receive a message, and this can also be through email. You'll receive a message saying that say La ilaha illallah 10 times or a number of times, or say this certain dua or this certain tahleel or tasbih or takbir a certain amount of times, and something good will happen to you. And sometimes they'll even say if you don't say it or if you don't pass it on to a number of people, something bad will happen to you. Subhanallah. Who gave you the authority to say something like this? Who gave you the authority to pass on this message? If it's not from the Quran and not from the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, then it's something made up and something we have no right to pass on within our communities. And a'udhu billah, it can possibly even fall into the category for the one who passes this on, which our Prophet ﷺ mentioned, "Man kadhaba alayya muta'ammidan falyatabawwa maq'adahu min an-nar." Or kama qala alayhi salatu wassalam, whoever invents a lie upon me intentionally, knowing that I didn't say something, but he passed it on saying that I said it, let him reserve his seat in the hellfire. Because this is a way that our deen is preserved, my brothers and sisters, that we only pass on information. All the information that we have today has come through authentic sources. And we are able to differentiate between unauthentic or non-authentic from the authentic. So please make sure when you receive these type of things, verify them before spreading them to others. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes on in the surah advising the believers. He mentions, "Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, la yaskhar qawmun min qawmin asa an yakunu khayran minhum. وَلَا نِسَاءٌ مِّن نِسَاءٍ عَسَىٰ أَن يَكُنَّ خَيْرًا مِّنْهُنَّ." O you who believe, let not a group of you laugh or mock at another group, because it may be that the ones you're laughing at are better than you. And let not the women laugh at another group of women, because it may be that the ones you're laughing at or making fun of or teasing are better than you. And it's very interesting, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned وَلَا نِسَاء. Usually when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, "Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu," O you who believe, this includes the men and women. This includes the men and women. It includes all the believers. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right after this, He mentioned, وَلَا نِسَاء. Perhaps because maybe our sisters indulge in this practice a little more. And our sisters know better. And I heard it from many sisters Many sisters are embarrassed to even come to the masjid, embarrassed to go to gatherings because they get made fun of amongst other sisters. And it may not even be name calling. It may not even be saying bad things, but you'll bring up subjects which they are sensitive to, which are embarrassing for them. Or other sisters will bring up things regarding their personal life, which you know they don't want to talk about or they're really ashamed of, and they'll bring it up amongst a group of other sisters, and this sister will be so embarrassed, she'll never want to come out again. You know how many sisters go through this? You know how many sisters go through this? Don't embarrass others, whether for whatever reason it may be, whether it's because you're making fun of them because of the way they look, something that they drive, or something that's going on in their personal life. This act alone, my brothers and sisters, believe it or not, is destroying our communities. Destroying our communities. When we're making fun of each other, looking down upon one another, at the end of the day, out of what? Out of arrogance. Because we think we're better than them. And especially I want to mention for the youth too. Because I know this goes on in your schools and colleges, especially high school, where you have bullying taking place, and a group of people are making fun of a certain individual, or maybe some individuals, just because of the way they look, just because of the way they dress or where they are from. Never join a group of people that are bullying one another. And this is such a big problem that it's actually growing across the U.S. And we have children, a'udhu billah, unfortunately, that are committing suicide. Suicide because of the bullying that they are going through in schools. What a tragedy for mankind that someone had to take their own life because they couldn't take it anymore. They couldn't take being made fun of or being laughed at just because the way they looked or the way they dressed or where they were from. This is a tragedy. And for the young ones, my young brothers and sisters that in school, if you ever even see this, you should try and stop it. Try and stop it by informing your peers in school, your teachers, your principal, whoever, whatever the authority may be, because this leads to a lot of harm. This leads to traumatization in this child's life that they will always live with for the rest of their life. And it'll affect them for the rest of their life. So remember, the youth especially also don't fall into this category where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, لا يسخر قوم من قوم عسى أن يكونوا خيرا منهم. Don't mock or laugh at another group of people because it may be that they're even better than you, and you have no right to laugh at them anyway because this is an act of arrogance. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes on in this ayah and He mentions, وَلَا تَلْمِزُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ وَلَا تَنَابَزُوا بِالْأَلْقَابِ. Don't look for the faults of one another and don't call each other by bad names. Don't look for the faults of one another. Our Prophet ﷺ has mentioned in a hadith recorded by Imam Abu Dawood that, O you who believe with their tongues and their hearts, don't look for the private mistakes of other Muslims. Because if you do so, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will expose your private mistakes. And whether you are in your own house, He will find those mistakes and He will disgrace you. So don't ever try to look for the private mistakes and faults of another Muslim brother or sister. Remember, when you're pointing one finger this way, you got three coming back to you. You got three coming back to you. So don't look for each other's faults. Try to find your own faults and rectify yourself and your own actions. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes on and He mentions, O you who believe, اجتنبوا كثيرا من الظن. O you who believe, stay away from suspicion. اجتنبوا كثيرا من الظن. From a lot of suspicion. Because verily, إن بعض الظن إثم. A part of suspicion is sinful. You know, just looking at somebody and passing a judgment right away by looking at them. Who are we to judge a book by its cover, as they say? Who gave us the authority? How do we know what's inside somebody's heart? Just by looking at somebody, you're passing judgments. وَلَا تَجَسَّسُوا. And don't spy on one another. Don't spy on one another. And I especially want to mention this for the parents. A lot of times we worry about our kids and what they do in their private life, and we worry they may be doing something wrong, so we spy on them. We spy on them, try to catch what they're doing, maybe read their journals and so forth, whatever it may be. But let me tell you something. This is really not a good technique to use if you want them to give up something bad that they are doing. If they don't fear you in private, do you think they fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? If they don't fear you, do you think they fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Teach them the fear of Allah and let them know that Allah is watching them wherever they are. And then they will stay away from the things you want them to stay away from, not just for your sake, but for the best sake, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And whether you are in this world or you have left this world, they will remember that. And they will stay away from what you wanted to stay away from. Because if you are just simply instilling the fear of mom and dad in them, remember that we're not here forever. And when we leave, they can just go right back to the things that you wanted them to stay away from. So teach them the fear of Allah and talk to them like a friend. If you know they're going through something, they're doing something bad, don't jump on them and start yelling and screaming. No, talk to them like a friend would talk to them and go through their problems. They go through a lot of temptations. Take it easy on them and work with them. And remember, moreover, don't spy on them, because that can lead to a whole nother level of fighting and a lack of trust between one another. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions one more thing, and perhaps the most important, and I'll save it for the end, of course. وَلَا يَغْتَبْ بَعْضُكُمْ بَعْضًا, and do not backbite one another. A khatib could come up here every Friday, every single Friday, and this is all he could say. وَلَا يَغْتَبْ بَعْضُكُمْ بَعْضًا, and his job would be complete. Because unfortunately, within our communities, we just cannot seem to learn not to backbite one another, take the honor of one another, disgrace one another for no reasons, many a times. Taking the honor of one another for no reason. Our Prophet ﷺ mentioned in his khutbatul wida', his final khutbah, farewell khutbah, that inna dima'akum haramun alaykum. Inna dima'akum wa amwalakum wa a'radakum haramun alaykum ka hurmati yawmikum hadha fi shahrikum hadha wa fi baladikum hadha. O kama qala alayhi salatu wassalam. That verily your blood, your wealth, and your honor are sacred, are sanctified, like the sanctity of this day, of this month, and of this land. Taking the honor of another Muslim brother or sister, this is a serious crime. When our Prophet ﷺ went up to Mi'raj, when he ascended to the heavens, and he was showing the people of the hellfire and Jannah, he saw people in the hellfire who were scratching themselves, scratching their flesh, their faces, and their chests with copper nails, And he asked Jibreel, who are these people? And he mentioned these are those who used to eat the flesh of their brothers and sisters, meaning the ones who used to backbite one another. My brothers and sisters, next time you're with a group of people and you hear another brother or sister going off on another brother or sister, remember the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, and a hadith recorded by Imam Tirmidhi. Man radda ala irdi akhi, radda Allahu ala wajhihi an-nar yawm al-qiyamah. Whoever protects the honor of another Muslim brother or sister, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will save this person's face from the hellfire in yawm al-qiyamah. So in that situation, either you walk away or you change the subject, or just remind the folks to end it right there and talk about something else. Now, I know sometimes it's very hard not to backbite. And actually, there are some situations where it may be permissible, maybe even necessary. And our scholars give us 6 conditions or situations where it is permissible or maybe even necessary to do so. Usually when the subject of guarding the tongue or backbiting is mentioned, these 6 points are not mentioned. So today I want to mention these 6 because it's very important for every Muslim to know, so that you don't fall into this crime of backbiting, and so that you know when it's allowable to do so and maybe encouraged to do so. And I'll mention these 6 in the second khutbah. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. Alhamdulillah wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah. Our scholars have advised or mentioned 6 points, 6 exceptions where ghiba is not considered ghiba, or you don't have the ithm of committing ghiba in these 6 cases. And remember them very well. I remember I was with the youth here maybe a few months ago or last year, late last year, and we discussed these. Inshallah, I hope they all remember it. But these are 6 situations which we all should remember. And these are all derived from the Quran and Hadith. It's not like they just sat and came up with something. No, they are all derived. They all have evidences backing them. The first one is mutadhallim, someone who is oppressed. If you are being oppressed, you have the right to go to an authority or to go to others and mention that you are being oppressed so that you may be saved from your oppression. So in your houses, if your wives are oppressing you, you have the right to go to someone else and mention. Actually, I should mention it the other way around, right? If you are being oppressed, or some brothers like, no, I am being oppressed. No, but either way, if it's your husband or your wife, whatever the case may be, if you are being oppressed, it's okay for you to seek help. Maybe talk to a friend, to talk some sense into your spouse and let them know what they're doing is wrong. Or if it's something maybe even serious, a'udhu billah, inshallah, that's not the case. You can even go to a higher authority and seek help. And there's nothing wrong in this case. You're being oppressed. And this is just a small example, but it can happen in many other cases. Just remember, you have to be oppressed, and you're allowed to speak out against this. The second exception our scholars mention is mu'arrifin, for the sake of identification. If you are trying to describe somebody to somebody, just for the sake of identification, this is not considered ghiba. Meaning, a brother is going somewhere to pick up a package or meet somebody, and you're trying to describe him. You're saying, it's maybe the heavy-set brother with the larger ears or maybe darker skin. But you're not doing it in a way to make fun of this person. You're just doing it so that they can recognize and identify this person for the sake of identification. In this case, this is not considered ghiba as well. The next exception is muhadhirin, a very important one, warning somebody about something. Warning somebody about something. Somebody comes to you and asks your opinion regarding someone in marriage for their daughter. And this guy is up to no good. He's smoking hookah all day. He's drinking, he's playing video games, not really serious in life. You have no right to say, MashaAllah, this guy, I would give my daughter right away, eyes closed. No. You got to tell the truth. And it's an obligation on you in this situation to tell the truth. Another example, even in regards to business transactions. If you know someone is doing bad business, then it is your right to inform others that are going to engage with this person in business, to warn them and say, hey man, I just want to let you know, you can get ripped off. So you better be careful when you deal with this brother or sister in regards to business. If you know for sure, you have experienced it, there's nothing wrong with warning others about this. Also in regards to the deen, if you know someone is teaching some bid'ah or doing something outlandish, or you're warning them from going to gatherings where they're performing dhikr and dancing or something like this, then you are allowed to warn others and let them know in this situation this is not considered ghiba. The next exception, وَلِمُظْهِرٍ فِسْقًا, someone who is openly sinning. And remember my words, openly sinning. If someone is openly sinning, an example, he walks in the masjid with a Corona or a Budweiser and is walking around with his beer. In this case, this person is openly sinning. He's coming to the masjid, first of all, doing something like this. In this case, you're allowed to mention so-and-so is doing this so that he or she may give up that act. And they may feel embarrassed and they can stop doing what they're doing, and so that it may not spread to others and influence others. But remember, this is for open sinning, not something in secret. If somebody is doing something inside their bedroom, inside their house, do you have a right to expose this person? Absolutely not. That is between them and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala what they decide to do. But if someone is openly sinning to protect a society, yes, you're allowed to make mention of this so that that person may stop doing what they're doing. The next exception, mustaftin, someone who is seeking a fatwa. We all seek religious counsel for various reasons. And of course, in this case, if you need to mention a specific person or specific situation, it is allowed to do so because you are seeking religious advice or a religious verdict. And the last one, we mentioned 5 so far, Last one, وَمَنْ طَلَبَ الْإِعَانَةَ فِي إِزَالَةِ مُنْكَرٍ. If you are trying to remove a harm within society, if you're seeking help to remove a harm within society. A simple example, you know some people are plotting, getting together to do something bad, and somehow you found out about it. It would be your job actually in this situation to go report it to another authority to save the rest of society from this harm that they're doing. And this can also be taken into other small examples. I don't want to go too deep into the examples right now because I'm already over time. But remember, the last point was that if you are seeking help to remove a harm, in this case, this is also not considered ghiba. These are the 6 situations. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to increase us in beneficial knowledge and safeguard our tongues. Ameen. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين وانصر الإسلام وأهله في كل مكان اللهم انصر المستضعفين من المؤمنين في كل مكان اللهم انصر إخواننا في سوريا اللهم ارزقهم رزقا طيبا واجعل لهم من كل ضيق مخرجا ومن كل هم فرجا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم انصر الإسلام وأهله في كل مكان يا رب العالمين. Oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we ask you for shifa. Brother Isa mentioned some brothers and sisters that were sick within our community. We ask you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to provide them with shifa'atan kamila. And for all the Muslims that are sick, Allahumma shfi mardana wa marda al-muslimin. برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار يا عزيز يا غفار. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إنا كنا من الظالمين. وصلى اللهم على نبينا وحبيبنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه والتابعين. قم الصلاة.